Hello, I've done hundreds of interviews and today we're gonna go through how I do it. Just kidding. I will go through how my brain works while doing an interview and also why overscripting your questions will kill your connection. So let's do it. The first and most important thing of every interview situation is to make the person feel comfortable. If this doesn't happen, the rest will just go to shit. Grab a coffee or lunch or just a conversation off camera somewhere with the person that you are interviewing before. Don't talk so much about the interview. Talk about other stuff. Talk about life and talk about family and anything except the subject you're going into on the interview. Focus on making them feel appreciated. That's the main thing before starting. And then when you're starting, the question of direction. How much direction can you give someone during an interview while it's still an organic interview? I think it's okay to give some direction. Like if you want a good start for your film and a good ending point and some key elements in the middle, then it's okay to have them scripted and give direction to the person to say them exactly like you want them, because you know they goes in your film and you know how they are going to be used. Because sometimes it's hard to get those totally organically, but they shouldn't really interfere with the person's story. They are more presentation and key points that build a story. So I think that's okay. And people will disagree with me on this, but it's up to them. This is how I do it. When you've started doing the interview, when you're sitting on one side and you have the person sitting on the other side and they have the cameras and lights on them, the most important thing for you to think about is to listen. Because it's the other person that is the hero of the film, and your only job is to listen to them and be curious, explore what they have to say and what their story is. So active listening, most important thing. If you're not flexible, if you're stuck with this comfort blanket of a paper with questions on it, you will ask questions like a robot and they will answer shortly, probably only tell the first thing that comes to their mind, which is usually some cliche or some boring thing that you're not gonna be able to use in the film anyway, because that's how human mind works. We try to make it easy for ourselves. That's why we have pre-programmed answers to easy questions that, we just deliver like this. Like, how are you? I'm good. You don't want that in your film. You need to go deeper. So you need to listen to that question and then you need to question and interrogate that question and see, okay, what happens if I press this button? Can we go deeper? Can we find out more here? But if you're stuck with a paper reading questions, you will never get there. In my head, there is this tree that just builds and branches out all the time into this huge, complex thing. And every little branch is where the person is talking about something which I want to know more about. So say they're talking about a flower. In my head, I want to ask them, okay, what's the color of this flower? Can you eat it? And does bees like it? And then that grows into 3 new branches on that end. And then I can pick one and then, This is a way that I use to visually maintain all the things that I want to explore. And it takes a lot of energy as an interviewer to do this, but it allows me to find out more and to make the person talk about the things that they are really passionate about, which is where the interesting stuff comes out. So don't plan too much before you interview. If you script every question in advance, you will fail. I'm not saying don't plan, but plan in the right way. And a better way is to write the answers that you're looking for. Because you can do your dramatic curve before. This is how the story should go. And then for each section, each inflection point of that, you can write, okay, on this point, I want the person to talk about this. And on this point, I want to talk about how hard it got. That way, if you write the answers, you know what you're looking for. And then you can use different questions and different ways of making them talk about that. And the hardest thing of all is to make them talk about the hard stuff, where there's a lot of feelings. Most people, when they're presented with that question, they say, yeah, it was really hard, but then it turned out okay. Try to coach them into, okay, You don't have to present the solution to it right now. Stay in the hard place and dig deeper there. What emotions were you going through? What did other people around you think? Give me examples, give me stories on what mistakes you made, what went wrong. This is where you tend to spend the most time of the interview. Even if it's a small piece of the film, it's really important to get this part, because that's how it gets interesting in the end. Another important thing when you're sitting there doing the interview is to beam your energy towards the person. When I've seen behind the scenes footage of myself doing interview, I'm like nodding constantly, and then I try to send them like laser beams through my eyes to put energy into their head. I don't know if it works, but I think it does something. Everything you can do to give them energy and courage to tell their story is gonna help you when you're doing the film. This brings me to one of the big time mistakes that you can do, and that is losing focus of your subject. So if you are fiddling with the camera on the side here, looking away, they're gonna lose interest right away. And if you're looking down on your paper, how fun is this to engage with? So be aware that you can look at your paper when you're asking the questions, but never look on your paper while they're talking. Never fiddle with the camera while they're talking. For them, sitting on this exposed side, on the other side, for them that will feel like you're not listening. They will cut themselves short, or they will lose energy, and it will turn out to be a less successful interview, which is the opposite of what we're looking for. And one more thing that I'm thinking a lot about right now, when doing an interview, should I do it only with sound or with video and sound? It's easy to think like, of course we do video, we can use only the sound if we want. But you can save a lot of time by only recording an audio interview, because you don't have to set up the lights, you don't have to configure the camera. You only need 2 people in a quiet space with a microphone and you're set. And then you can do the interview 10-15 minutes and you'll be done. So you can save a lot of time, and it's also very useful if they are nervous about getting interviewed. Not having a camera in their face will help, for sure. Audio-only interviews work well for shorter films, up to say 5 minutes. Then you can get other shots of the person when they're not speaking that you can use to establish the contact. But for longer films, say 30 minutes, you probably will need the interview picture to be able to see their emotions when they respond or talk about something. If they have a smile when they're telling a story, you want to see that sometimes, even if it's a static interview shot. So I'm currently figuring out when to use what and how we can spend less time on the actual interview setup, because that frame is not used that much. And if we can use audio only sometimes. This will be an experiment that keeps going. That's it for today. I hope you learned something. This is how my brain works, how I think about interviews, and how my process of making them looks like. If you have any questions, any other topics that you think I should cover, just let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram or comment here down below. And don't forget to subscribe and click everywhere. Yeah, that's all you have to do. Yeah, see you in the next one.